Good morning from wherever you're watching us from. Thank you for joining us this morning on News Check. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim. The sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Anne Wangeshi. On this particular first hour, we're focusing on the political scenes, given that the early campaigns are still ongoing, both on the political divides, either from the state and the opposition side as well. They're transversing various parts of the country. These early campaigns, at the end of the day, should it be like that, or should they be continuing to deliver services to the country? That is what we'll be focusing on this morning, including also the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC, that is yet to take over their mandate at the Anniversary Towers following that particular court ruling by the High Court judges, who clearly stated that Parliament can go on and vet the said cabinet, commissioners and members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC, but cannot assume office after being sworn in by the Chief Justice, that is Martha Koome. We'll wait to see how those scenes will unfold. During this particular first hour, we'll also be crossing over to various parts of the country. More importantly, here in the capital, when the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, is expected to appear before the Committee of National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations at the Senate to, of course, expound more on the circumstances surrounding the death of Albert Ojwang at the Central Police Station. You do remember yesterday the IG visited what will be known as a crime scene at Central Police Station, and of course taking aboard what happened and what transpired that led to the interdiction of officers who are on duty that particular day. Also, we're keeping an eye on the city mortuary, where the post-mortem for Albert Ojwang will be conducted. The human rights activists also do have their pathologists, the family have their pathologists, and also the government will be represented by none other than Johansson Oduor. We'll be getting details of that particular story, given that we'll be focusing on that. But our keen focus this morning and in the first hour is on the political scene. Joining us this morning on this first hour is none other than Sami Meli, political analyst, also Shamala Immaculate, a politician. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let me start with you, Shamala. How would you describe the scenes right now on the political landscape?
As usual in the Kenyan setup, it's exciting. We never stop politics, because politics drives the economy of a country, and especially Kenya. Politics drives policies. So the landscape now, the momentum has peaked. We are truly in a political mood. Symbols are being made in terms of coalitions. Assumptions of coalitions are being talked about. And somehow we are starting to see the political players now. So the political momentum has peaked, and we are in slightly a campaign mood.
Should that be the case, Mel?
I think Kenya has been in a campaign mood ever since 2002. When we came, there was an agitation for the new constitution. We went to 2005, there was a referendum, then the agitation, the ODM coalition being created, and then we moved forward like that. Even in the last regime, the last 5 years of Uhuru Kenyatta was just continuously a political environment. So I think Kenyans have never been able to differentiate the work time and the political time. And the kicking out of Rigiji from the government, in fact, aggravated all this. It went into a full crescendo. And perhaps now we are seeing the cousins around. We are about to know who is my cousin, who is not my cousin. But I think as Kenyans, we are all cousins.
And let me go back to Shamala. Shamala, yes. We're talking about early campaigns. When do they work for the citizenry?
I think we need to appreciate that politics is about public affairs. So politics is not bad, all right? And politics drives the economy, because it is through the political process that we get leaders. And when we get those leaders, we are able to now make policies that drive the economy, that drive the agenda of a country. So politics is not bad. Let us just first get this out of our way. And let's not demonize politics, because politics is a way of life, all right? It's about structures, it's about governance, it's about, resources being spent. However, probably the fundamental question we are asking are the campaigns. Are the campaigns? Are the campaigns worthy now? Do we start the campaigns now? Because probably it might compromise the economic agenda that is driven through a political agenda for a country. So that is what we should ask ourselves. But then we should also ask ourselves, does it also give us the time to now start understanding what these leaders of ours are advancing? Is it just political agenda, or also there's development agenda that they are bringing, ideologies that are working? Okay, so for me, we can still do the politicking and the campaign, but also it gives the citizens an opportunity to start differentiating between bickering, rhetorics, and ideologies. Yeah.
Great point there, Millie. When it comes to what the politicians are giving out there in terms of their ideologies and what they'll be doing for the country, we're just 2.5 years away from the next general election. Now the coalitions are here with us. Can we say we truly have a face, we can put a face to the names, both in the opposition and in the ruling party?
I think it is too early to say we are putting a face to a certain political formation. Remember, they have not sat now and started distributing the appointments or the positions amongst themselves. Perhaps there will be a fallout even before the general elections, because you are seeing some are saying you have to show that you have the numbers for us to support you. Again, the current opposition that is forming at the moment is has given an alternative opposition. Remember, the parties that we thought were in opposition are already in government, and therefore we would lack the alternative opposition. So they are actually helping us keep the government in check. They are helping us know things that are happening that we wouldn't have known, especially when there is a coalition already between the government and the opposition. So we say democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So when they engage the people, when the political environment is as heated as it is, the government works. But when they keep quiet, be worried whenever you hear the country is quiet, because there is a likelihood that the government is not working. So we have seen whenever they speak about an issue, there is a press statement from the government explaining what is happening, and therefore I don't think that the political undertones are bad, but we should appreciate that we are in a democracy. We are not in a federal government where we don't want to speak, and we should appreciate that our leadership is allowing us to express ourselves the way we are. We remember we have come from far. We have a new progressive constitution that allows us to express ourselves. It allows us to engage Kenyans in a public participation, especially when we see things that are not going right. For example, the killings that would be going on. You have seen the National Police Service coming out strongly to give us a full statement and give indications that they are going to follow to the conclusion that all this is brought the justice is brought. So again, you look at whenever they talk about agriculture, you see the Ministry of Agriculture reacting. They talk about the Ministry of Health, about the SHA. You see even reshuffles being done so that this thing works. So we should appreciate our democracy, but we should avoid a situation whereby we are balkanizing the nation. This country is a fragile nation. If we easily utter some words that can bring some clashes here and there, we should also encourage, like you have seen our National Police Service, it's like they have not come to the reality of the new constitution where citizens have rights. The day President Mwai Kibaki signed and put a seal on the new constitution, the first clause that took effect immediately was the Bill of Rights. And those Bill of Rights should be enjoyed. The right to life is guaranteed to every Kenyan, including the one who has just been conceived now. So the Bill of Rights applies to every Kenyan. And in as much as we express our rights, we should also take care of the other people's rights so that we don't infringe on other people's rights while expressing ours.
And of course, Shamala, take us briefly back to the histories, given that in the run-up to the 2022 general election, we saw coalitions being formed, especially between Azimio as well as Kenya Kwanza. Are we taking a similar trend, or this time it is a little bit different?
Yeah. And thank you for that question, because again you asked, are we going to see something different?
Yes.
No, sir, we are not. We are not. Already the landscape, the political landscape is already formed. What we are going to see now is probably shifting of goalposts.
Yes.
Probably if there'll be a fallout in a certain coalition, then the other person who feels not happy about it will jump to another coalition. But there's no new coalition. What will happen is new names, but the same people, the same voters, all right? The same appetite of tribalism, the same appetite of sometimes abdicating our civic responsibilities. You know, it is the same. So for me, I think, and it is okay, that we are having the same players. Probably it is up to us citizens now to start grilling the players, because players can change, the pattern can change, the playing position can change, that's fine. But then it can only change if the citizens can get out of the syndromes that we are in. For example, there's the syndrome of anger. Yes. Anger against a government. But then we are asking, especially the young people, and before, and I'm sorry that I didn't do this, I wanted to offer my condolences to the family of Albert. Ojwang, yes. Yes, Albert Ojwang. And my take is nobody should die in a place where it should be secure. And my take is also that kindly we have institutions, may they seem to be working. IPOA, this is the time. We need to really assure Kenyans that the oversight policing authority or commission is responsive. And so the players are the same. The coalition names will change. The pattern of politics will change, because there's the entry of the intergenerational issue. In 2022, it was about economy. This 2027, it will be about intergenerational issue, where the young people feel they need to be visible, while the old people, or the elderly, not old, the elderly will be asked, you've been there, what have you been doing? And so that's the conversation I would wish that the country should take, that let's hold each other to account. Not only the leaders, not only their coalitions, but also what are we, the women, what are we, the youth, doing towards injecting our agenda in these coalitions. So what I see, there'll be 3 coalitions, what I envision. That's my assumption as Shamala Immaculate. There'll be the ruling coalition, there'll be the not so opposition, like we don't know if we're in the opposition or not. And then there will be the people who are coming, or a coalition that is coming with that, you know, assumption that they're coming with newness. So there's that Kalonzo Rigiji coalition. There's the ruling party that we know, maybe the name can change. But then we have the Matiang'i, Maraga, you know, who are coming to say, listen, we've never been politicians, but now we are stepping into politics. And so we bring some level of sobriety, we bring a level of cleanness. So, but then that third coalition is waiting to be called by the 2 major coalitions, so that a formation can be formed, because one of the things that coalitions are being formed in Kenya is to oust the ruling government, not an agenda. And that's where the citizens need to hold these leaders to account, like, what's your agenda? Agenda cannot be a president. Agenda must be, things are not working, this is how we'll fix it. Yeah.
And of course, that issue of intergenerational, given that 2022 it was about the economy, now you're predicting it could be intergenerational when it comes to 2027. Do you agree, first of all, Sami Meli, and also when it comes to that, then where are the faces of young people in those coalitions?
Now, the intergenerational thing, I think, any campaign is expensive. Any campaign is expensive. The young men and women should be able to trust one another. In any other coalition or in grabbing power, power is grabbed. It is never given. And the young people tend to mistrust each other, and therefore already the mistrust has been built among the leaders who seem to be leading them. They already mistrust them, and therefore they will easily fall victim of the old monkeys in the forest, because the old monkeys know the forest better, and they know how to maneuver. It will be a little bit difficult for greenhorns, especially the younger generation, getting into leadership unless they start somewhere. There's somewhere to start, because presidency in itself, for example, the campaigns for presidency is nothing less than 10 billion running around this country. If these young people would identify somebody who carried their vision and support, they might carry the day. But remember, again, tribalism ropes in very well, especially during elections. It comes in handy, and the politicians know how to do it. You see, for example, right now, you have seen the impeached deputy president going around trying to identify with a certain communities. Already, that is telling you, is balkanizing the communities, bringing them around himself. And remember, none of our leaders, especially the ones seeking leadership at the moment, have shown that when they were in leadership. They haven't given us anything concrete that they achieved when they were in the leadership. And therefore, if the young people can rally around somebody who carries their vision, they have not come out to campaign. They are fronting Fred Matiang'i, for example. They are talking about Okia Omtata joining the race. But at what point will they coalesce? Because if they are all divided, there are some following this leader, some following this leader, the young people will again sink into the politics of this country. Remember, not all young people are also on board with the agenda of the young Gen Zs. There are others who still stick with the old guards. And there is a bigger factor here that has not said the position it will take. This is Raila Amolo Odinga. The side that Raila Amolo Odinga will stick to will have a bigger say, because this is another enigma that has always known how to traverse the politics of this country. It's not just traversing the country, but traversing the politics and getting into the bedroom of politics of this country. President William Ruto also should not be underrated by these young men. You might think that he's done, but he's not yet done. He's not yet even down. Therefore, the young men should think about, young men and women should think about who carry their vision and what is this vision they want. If themselves are not accountable where they are. You see, a former general in the US said, if you want to change the world, first make your bed when you wake up in the morning. Change begins with you. And the only constant thing will always be a change. So if you make your bed in the morning, if you want to change the world, make your bed in the morning. If you fail to change the world when you go out there, you at least have somewhere better to rest on. And this is now our beds, which come now at the home level, the smaller political unit, which is the ward level. What kind of leaders are you putting there? Then come to the constituency level. What kind of leaders are you putting there? Right now, IBC, despite the court ruling that stopped yes. Now, if we were to get into the by-elections, are these young people ready to get into this leadership? Because leadership is not only on the streets, coming to the decision-making organs of this country. if there are vacancies, are our young people able to rally behind themselves and say, this is our candidate, for example, in this political unit. And therefore, that person carries their vision. If that person will show leadership in the next 2.5 years or in the next 2 years, this person can still be elevated to another position. Otherwise, social media will never help us, because the social media, yes, will help us incite one another, but at the end of the day, decisions are made in parliament, decisions are made in judiciary, decisions are made in the executive. Where are you? Are you positioning yourselves in these three arms of government?
Okay, as you react to that, Shamala, also we do know this particular phrase that there are no permanent enemies or friends within the political circles, but in terms of realignments, you've just talked about the changing of the figures within the coalitions. So are those realignments going to happen even before we reach the 2027 polls?
Thank you. I'll take three. The issue of intergenerational issue, we cannot emphasize or under-emphasize. The young people will determine a lot in the 2027 elections. And it's just not presidential elections. We have the county, local politics.
Yes.
And I'm sure this will be brought back here if I'm alive to again say you saw it. Some of our county governments will have very young people as members of county assembly. Because the young people are starting to understand that politics drives everything. And so that appetite of going for political positions is going to be huge. And I see them organizing themselves to be able to say, we are not interested, probably we cannot reach at the presidential, but we are going to influence at our local positions. We are going to go for MCAs. We are going to go in the National Assembly. At the moment, you can see there's an increase of young people at the National Assembly. That is not going that's going to be the pattern. In fact, it's going to be more. And so the older generation must be alive to the fact that the young people are going to influence the politics of 2027. They are not maybe going for presidency, fine, but then they are going to influence who is going to be the president. And that's why you see deliberate moves even by the head of state, deliberate moves even by the so-called opposition, in the way of even dressing, the way of engagement. They are trying to endear themselves to the young people because they know the young people are going to determine the elections of 2027. And this is an opportunity I can use for the young people to say, you can now organize yourselves. Get organized, get activated, get engaged, do your civic education in social media, do your civic education physically, that you may start looking at those people who can advance your agenda in the spaces of county assembly, in the spaces of the Senate, in the spaces of National Assembly. And to the political parties, a political party that will not be able to galvanize and mobilize the young people, then that political party is rendered irrelevant. Because they are the masses, their numbers are, their numbers are insane. And they're having their voice because of the democratic spaces, my brother has said. And so that one, as political parties, we are saying we must ensure that the youth are given an opportunity at the helm, even in the political parties' leadership, because they inject, they energize, they bring fresh ideas, and also they are with time, real time. They are working with real time, not backwards. And then when it comes to the issue of, my brother has said, the Raila factor, it's true, he is a big factor, but in politics they say, look at the body language. In politics, don't listen to what people say, politicians say, but see how they are behaving and the signals they're giving. And the signals are very clear. In 2027, Raila will work with His Excellency Samuel William Ruto. That he will. There'll only be probably a fallout of his lieutenants, where they will feel they are not responding, they are not connecting. Some of them will fall out. But majority of Raila's base is going to work with the head of state. And because of so many reasons that Raila is alive to. You know, he is alive to that. Even at the way he is, he knows that the politics has shifted and there needs to be some realignment in some of the positions and decisions he's going to make. Then we come to the last question. You said no permanent enemies. Absolutely, absolutely. Dear Kenyans, politics is just a difference of ideologies. There are no permanent enemies in politics. In fact, the people you think are fighting, in the evening they are taking a beer together. In fact, the people who are energizing you to say one term or whatever you're saying, in the evening they are asking, can we be brought back on the table? In fact, the people you think are standing for you are actually crafting how they can come to the government using ways of saying we have more CSS, we have more PSS in the next government. That is still a way of saying I'm part of the government. So Kenyans should not think that politicians are enemies. No way. Sometimes it's a ploy to energize the political temperatures for the bargaining of others. Sometimes these are optics that we are seeing. But what I remind Kenyans is, in this all permanent or no permanent or realignment, where are our interests? Can we also safeguard our interests? Can we be also selfish with our interests? Can we start asking these leaders like, hey, can we also have some agreements? If they were able to make agreements in 2022, like the Kenya Kwanza agreement, I think it's important the women to start making agreements with this coalition. I think the youth should be thinking of making agreements with these coalitions. That is where the interest will be covered. But permanent enemies, no way. Don't see politicians are enemies. They sit together and take a cup of tea and drink beer together.
Okay, Millie, as you also comment on that, the million-dollar question here now is, with this IBC in place, let's foresee if they're going to be cleared by the courts and sworn in by the Chief Justice Martha Koome. The first task they'll be doing is voter registration. They'll clean up the register and start voter registration ahead of the 2027 polls. Do we foresee these young people registering?
Now, sometimes IBC, sometimes the young people are disadvantaged. They might end up, for example, when the registration is going on, they are in school, in colleges, some will be graduating at the end of this year. They end up, for example, if they are in JQuat, they register in Juja, but the elections find them elsewhere. You see, sometimes the young men could take the registration in their home counties, for example, or their villages, but during elections, most of them are doing exams in the university, and therefore they might not be able to travel. So the young people should be strategic in how they do their registration. And the voter transfer, there is always a voter transfer period. So they should be keen on all this. And as we go for the by-elections that could probably take place in December, we were talking about November, but due to the delays, it might go into December or January next year. They should position themselves, ensure that they put their representatives in place. And as my sister talked about here, is that in politics, especially politicians who are hungry, they cry anyhowly like a hungry child. You see, a well-fed child keeps quiet. You can see the ones who are in government, they are quiet because they are well-fed. But the ones who are outside, they are crying actually. It's a cry. This thing you are seeing them going around, if they are given something into their stomachs, they'll keep quiet. So they are looking for a way of bargaining. And Kenyans have always been pawns in a game of chess. They don't know. They easily fall victim by supporting somebody only to realize that they drink a beer together in the evening. The next day they are called to State House or to elsewhere or to Manzoni. I have seen even Manzoni is now becoming a very famous, to Sekuru. They end up quoting the people they say they'll never work for. Remember, Kalonzo told us, I'd rather die than support Raila Odinga. What happened in the last general election? So the politicians are these monkeys who know how to jump from one tree to another. They know which farm has ripe mangoes, which farm has raw mangoes, which farm is the mangoes are flowering. They know, and they are looking for a way to bargain. The young men, as my sister has said it, and women, please look for a way of bargaining your way into government. You tell these people, if at the end of the day in 2027 you don't have a candidate, bargain. Tell this other coalition, we want 50% of nominated positions. We want 50% of government appointments. Why would you go appoint a 70-year-old in ICT? Yet ICT is changing. You see them even joking about the people who have been appointed. They are clueless in the areas they have been put. So there are people. I am happy the other day I visited a government parastatal, and I was sent to an ICT the ICT section, and I found purely young men below 30. And I was saying, actually, this is now what I wanted. And they attended to me very fast. They didn't know who I was, but my issues were attended to. And like before, I used to go to another office where there is an elder who is hitting the keyboard with one finger from this part to this part. But these ones are able to do things very fast. And that is why I'm saying our government should learn that the world has changed. The world economy has changed. The world economy now lies on digital. And if you put the old dogs in a new field where they don't know how to hunt, we will mess this economy. Let's bring these young people. They are voicing themselves. They are telling you, we have been left outside. We want to be in government. We want to give a solution to this country. We want to give, just like this other young girl who had given a solution on how emails can be sent en masse. This is a person who should be mentored. And even Parliamentary Service Commission should be calling this girl and saying, how can we make public participation very easy? She knows how to send so many emails at the same time. These are the people. Unfortunately, in Africa, we kill innovators. Somebody who sang a good song finds himself in a police cell. Somebody who makes a good program find themselves in prisons. Why? Yet in other, I was telling somebody yesterday, if Elon Musk was still in Africa, he would be perhaps a prisoner elsewhere or a pauper in a certain street. But there are countries, you have seen our young men, when they are taken abroad for further studies, when they realize this is a genius, they don't release them back to Africa. Why? Because our children are very innovative. So let's use their brains. These are the brains Mwai Kibaki gave free education. These are the brains we gave free secondary education, free day secondary education. These are the brains we have given our help money to learn. We want them to participate. Look at, for example, the CS, Dennis Itumbi. Dennis Itumbi was a blogger the other day. Now he's in government. Let's bring them, let's bring more. And even the retirement age, I'm wondering, why is it at 65? At 60, people are tired. Why should they be kept there in the offices? These people should go now and become elders who advise from the periphery. But now the other younger economy, the younger generation should take over the leadership, should take over positions to drive this country's economy. But we thank God for the new constitution. We thank God for our young men. We thank God for our Bill of Rights.
Okay. As you also respond to that, Shamala, there is this saying that politicians normally use to the young people that it is your time to take over, we're going to give you the baton, but the problem is the politicians do not hand over those batons at the end of the day. So what should these young people do for the old guards to believe them and hand over that baton?
All right. Thank you for that question. Can I say something small about the IBC?
Yes.
I believe that our structures work. I want to also urge the institutions that should clear IBC to do so first. And the mandate of IBC should be the task IBC should have, it shouldn't be more on the by-elections, but clearly just to have affirmative mechanisms to ensure that the youth, the women, the persons living with disability are registered. And you can see from even how the IBC has been formed. that the young people are also in the commission. And I must just say this, that this government is deliberate in ensuring inclusion is an agenda. And so the young people are inside IEBC. We would expect them to have very progressive plans on how to incorporate deliberately the youth, so that in the whole process of registration, the whole process of until voting, which will be the result, that the voices of the youth are carried along. And that is also the task of the youth, to do that, to hold institutions to account. I want us to slow down as a country in focusing on one issue of one term, two term. I want us to focus on processes, because processes bring results. And so if you're not in the processes, how do you now come at the tail end to claim that you need to be included? And so this is an opportunity. Elections are an opportunity for inclusion. And so if the youth, and that's the question, if the youth can be extremely deliberate in their approach, negotiate in political parties. I hear whispers of people forming their political parties based on age and gender. That cannot work in Kenya, because that's unconstitutional. That's not within the confines of Political Parties Act. But whichever party you are in, there are elections that are going on. If the youth can also be able to tap themselves into those seats, then the youth agenda will be visible. Because once you're on the table, nobody will step on you. You'll always insist, and where are the youth? That's part of negotiation. Number two, these leaders that we are talking about who will come for political positions are not people from Mars or space or Jupiter or Pluto. They are people we live with. They are people we cheer them. They are people we support. And kudos to the youth. When they support you, they do it 100%. But that's not enough. I tell the youth, if you want to support me, Shamala, for political position, I need to see the hunger of you succeeding, growth. And that can only come when we sit with you and say, I will give you my vote, but this is what I want. So the negotiation of the youths of Kenya must be a notch higher. It is just not about job opportunities. It's not about tenders. But listen, we sit down, we are going to vote for you, and these are the issues we want. When you go to the county assembly, we want a budget for the youth of Kazi Mtaani. You know, such negotiations. So I would request the youth to sit with their leaders, to sit with those aspirants, so that they are having a pre-election negotiation. Those negotiations are very important, because they will assist you in the subsequent processes that come. That is one thing I would like to say. But lastly, to IEBC, I think for me, they must be deliberate. This IEBC, and I see their faces, they are versatile, the energy is there, they are really living in real time. I really wish that the issue of civic education should not be plastic or superficial or whatever. It should be extremely, even from the manuals, those manuals, those are for conducting civic education. Let it embrace technology. I would wish to see IEBC leveraging on the available technology to engage the youth. I would wish to see the IEBC staffs, a good percent are youth. Why? Because we will be able to have better ideas, but also fast implementation, actions being implemented, because that's how the youth are. They have the energy. And to the youth of Kenya, we are saying, let us not be used by people who have already arrived, be it even in the civil society. But let us have our selfish interest of saying, what is it for us? Not for me. What is it for us? As the youth of Isiolo, as the youth of Trans Nzoia, as the youth of Mandera, what is it that we are going to get for us? Is it a win-win situation, or only one person, alafu akienda, we are always saying, alitusahau, that person forgot us? It's because you didn't have better negotiation with the person you actually were supporting. Yeah.
And with that in mind, Melly, we're talking about these by-elections. If and when these IBC members are going to take up their roles at the anniversary towers, should we take this the by-elections as a litmus test for 2027?
Yes, you remember the by-election that happened in Kiambaa, and that was the birth of UDA. Yes. In fact, the ones who was elected in Kiambaa was the first member of parliament for UDA party. Therefore, the by-elections that are coming in will be a litmus test. In fact, the Cousins group will make sure that they have a say in that by-election. The government group will also want to show that they still have the muscle, and therefore, just like even the other time in Kericho, that is where Senator Cheruyot came in, and that was a show of might. And therefore, we are bound to see a show of might, and we will also know who are the underdogs in all this. And remember, this will build up into the next general election. IBC will have a role in voter registration, cleaning the voter register. Remember, since 2022, there are people who have exited the earth, and therefore they need to be removed from the voter register. There will be recruitment of the new voters who have attained the age of 18. They will have also to carry out civic education on the voting. They'll also be able to receive the nomination papers of those candidates that would have been nominated by political parties to vie in those by-elections, and they'll be able to manage that election, because the new team now, that also will be a litmus test for them to see how they are going to manage the next election. Are they going to leverage on digital platforms to make sure that this election is free and fair? And remember also, preparedness for the next general election begins immediately they take office. The secretariat is in place, but now the commissioners getting into office. Remember, the secretariat cannot work without the commissioners. They are just there in office. And Kenyans should not just look at the commissioners and forget that in every county there is an IBC office. In every constituency, there is an IBC office. And therefore, we have quite a number of IBC civil servants working with IBC who are already even in office. So the only thing we are waiting for is the approval of those nominees and the court cases to be heard and then determined. So the young men now still keep going back to the young people. Their agenda should come even in these by-elections that are coming. Their agenda should be seen. I saw somebody developing an app where we can vote at the comfort of our homes. I am wondering why I can trust Safaricom with my money, but I can't trust any other service provider with my vote. I think we should move into the digital world and make sure that we can vote digitally. This idea of queuing everywhere, it should be left for those who cannot afford the digital world to go and queue. The rest of us, even we can do advanced voting. The way it's done in the US. Kenya is a tech hub in Africa. When it comes to online, we are known. In fact, some superpowers fear us. So the technology, remember we invented the M-Pesa, the mobile money sending, the first one in the world. So we can even be the first. Nobody should say it has not been used elsewhere. We can be the first. We can show the world that these things can be done easily without struggling, and it can be as transparent as possible, because one ID card, one vote. I can even verify that so and so voted yet is dead. It's possible to know that this person, you even know the people who are dead. You can even use their IDs, but remember the IDs are usually surrendered when you get the death certificate. So the young people, the Kenyans should know that the monkeys are still the same. The monkeys are still the same. They are the same players in this politics. It's only that they are changing position. The one who was in goalkeeping is now a striker. The one who was a striker is now in midfield. The one who was in midfield is now in defense. So it is just the same thing. Remember, the ones who are advancing the affordable house are now against it. The ones who are telling the other politicians that the police have been reduced because of 1, 2, 3 are now without the police, and now they are grieved. Remember one thing, and I remember what Senator Murkomen ever once said, is that when he was a senator, when defending Senator Lagat and Senator Lelekwe when they were being castigated by the former regime, he reminded the regime on fairness. The same thing he should replicate now that he is in charge of the interior. He should make sure that the Kenyans disappearing do not disappear under his watch, because he was a defender. The same, for example, the people in the opposition who are saying once we get into government, we'll scrap affordable housing. Now, that tells you there are some houses which remain as ghost houses. The way we are seeing some projects. In Makueni, I saw there was a project that has been left and it had been done. The houses were almost complete in that area, and they have been left by the former regime. So we'll have elephant projects, white elephant projects that are remaining all over. The person coming in should give us an agenda. We don't care. We know we are cousins. We know we are sisters. We are brothers. We are in-laws. We know all that. We just want an agenda. Okay. What is your agenda for Kenya? We know the UDA agenda was this. We knew the what do you call, Azimio coalition agenda was this. What is your agenda? The way my sister said very well, the agenda cannot be removing the president. We would have lost it. That will be a big miss that we are doing. It is not that one. The agenda is, how are you going to transform this country? How are you going to pay our foreign debts? How are you going to generate revenue without taxing Kenyans? How are you going to be accountable for our taxes? That is the story we need to hear. Yes.
And Shamala, as you respond to that as well, in terms of building trust, this new IBC members, should this be their keen focus as they go into the office? Because you've just heard from Meli, if we can trust Safaricom with our money, why not trust IBC with our votes?
It's a good approach, digital voting, which we are doing in a way, because the biometrics are there, that is still digital. But look at also at the budgets. You know, elections and election process has huge budgets. And we are a country that is still growing. And so look at the budgets also. Even if we have the digital voting at the comfort of our sofa seats, we still have the human resource that we need, because who will verify, who will, you know, those processes, who will do it. So, and that now comes to the trust. Why we want, probably my brother Meli and others are saying that way, it's because of trust. But you know, it's interesting, and I'll give this because it's in public domain. The late Chebukati comes from my county. And someone said he's not a good person because he was doing his duty and he was performing his mandate as the chair. But because of the aggrieved parties felt he didn't do well, they demonized Chebukati. But now, when it was the time for his departure on earth, or he has departed, it was embarrassing for the people who are now in with government. It was embarrassing for them because they had demonized a person until Kenyans had refused to trust. So what am I saying? That Kenyans listen to what leaders speak about. Kenyans can just be told this person is bad and we believe. I think it is important not to go for people. Trust should be built in systems. All right? Trust should be built in systems. Let us look at things analytically. Are our systems responding? If they are not responding, what should be fixed? But it pains the whole nation when we demonize people and we lack trust in them, even when they've not started working. For us, it's not the IEBC commissioners. It is the systems that should be impeccable, should be solid, so that the systems can be able to give results that are extremely unquestionable. And so it's again up to Kenyans, you know, because the Constitution says we shall vote like this, but also it gives the provision of human resource. We must have a chair, we must have commissioners, we must have the clerks. So again, it's about us Kenyans being, at one point we call ourselves democratic, but when results are coming, we are undemocratic. We need to understand democracy is sometimes not everything you like will win. And we should trust the process. So once we start trusting the processes by accepting the verdicts of the people, then the systems will work and trust will be built. But I cannot stand at this national television and start saying that Kenyans should trust so-and-so, that Kenyans should trust you, for example. I mean, I don't have the moral authority to do that. But what I can say is we need to keep analyzing our systems, check on our systems, strengthen our systems, not the people. And let's not listen to when somebody said this person ensured so-and-so's election was better, favored so-and-so, and we believe that is wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, that is immature, in fact. Yeah.
We're entering the final leg of our conversation. Let me start with you, Meli, your 1 minute remark as we wind up.
My 1 minute remark would go to the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja. Our Constitution guarantees us the right to life. No other institution in this country can guarantee us our lives better than the National Police Service, ensuring that they maintain law and order in this country, and ensuring that we stay alive even in their custody. We should feel safe in a police station more than we can even feel safe out here. But the current results that we get, reports that we get from the police stations around the country, our young people, and you see I'm dressed in a black shirt and somehow white tie in solidarity with Mwalimu Albert Ojwang, who lost his life in the hands of the police. May they get justice. That is a father like me who has one son, and perhaps the only one. I'm lucky I have a daughter. He has only one and he is aged. That life has been cut short. Please, let us not see other things like that happening. Let that life that has been lost be one too many. Let the police be reformed. You have a budget to work on. Reform the National Police Service so that they can even guarantee us our security, not us feeling insecure. To the presidency, please ensure that the systems, the government institutions work. The people responsible for any mishap should always be held accountable. We are a nation and a progressive nation, and more other nations look upon us as Kenya.
Okay. Shamala, your closing remarks? Okay,
I just want to say I like the politics of Kenya. It's moving towards driving an ideology, and let's sustain that momentum in terms of holding our leaders to account, not only at the national level, but also at the county level. We're also saying when you're holding leaders account, also hold institutions to account. Institutions that need to be able to protect the rights of wananchi should be held to account. And holding to account meaning legislatively, policy and budget. Let us look at those areas so that when we are asking for reforms, they need to look at the conduct, the trainings of police officers, law enforcers, and also to look at the budget so that they are able to execute their mandates. And lastly, I call to Kenyans to, I cannot say to be at peace or to be calm, because the anger is there in so many things, but we can have a better way of having a conversation that will bring results. Because if we go to a way that we are radical and angry to destroy our country, we have no other country other than Kenya. But we can use the instruments in place to register our concerns, our anger, our disappointments, to bring change through reforms, policies, and legislations.
Thank you so much. That is Shamala Immaculate, a politician, as well as Sami Meli, a political analyst. Thank you for making time for our discussion here on the political